Right. So I'm just taking a moment. We're all taking a moment. Just taking this moment, first of all, just to recognize Great Spirit. So I'm going to do a little opening prayer as we get ready to begin our Santa Fe Lived Experience Advisory Board. And before I do the prayer, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. I want to thank those that are on the board, on this advisory board, for your presence with us here today. It means a lot to us because we need to be educated. We need to know things that we don't know, and that's what we're here to do, is to learn and to understand what we may not be able to understand in our own little world. So it is such a gift to have you here with us today, and I thank you. So let's just take a moment to go within and close your outer eyes if you care to, and take a breath in and let it go. Another centering breath in. And as we let it go, we relax and we just notice our breath. We recognize the divine is our breath, that we are here by divine appointment. We give thanks for that power and presence that is love, that is peace, that is truth and knowingness. We give thanks for the love that is putting together this presentation. We open our hearts and our ears, our minds, to knowing and learning and loving in a greater way, and knowing what we need to know and maybe what we need to do. So we just give thanks, knowing that Great Spirit is the one leading and guiding every part of today's presentation, and each and every one of us, and especially those that are here in the presentation. And so we simply accept and know this to be so as we say together, and so it is. So a few thank yous. Thank you to Tashima. Where are you, Tashima? Oh, there she is. She's the one who came to me. Let's give some love. And when she asked about it, I was like, absolutely, we need to do this. I went to one of these presentations at the Lutheran Church, and I got there late, so I didn't get to even hear it all. So I want to thank you, everyone who's been called to be here today, and Wendy we have, and we also have Jean who is assisting. And I believe that I'm just going to hand this to you. And make sure that you say your names, because I have a list of the names, but your first name, just to share that. So thank you, and let you take it away. Thank you.
We are so excited to be here with you all this afternoon, and more so, we want to make the first round of applause for you all for being here, for your interest, for coming. Thank you for opening Unity Santa Fe for us here. It is such a treasure to be able to do this. I am Wendy Rama, and I am here as representative of the S3 Housing Initiative Group, and I serve on the Education Committee. And I have the pleasure of working with this fantastic group who are part of, not all of, what we fondly refer to as LEAB. Some people say LEAB, and some people just simply say LEAB. But it is the Lived Experience Advisory Board, and they are such a treasure to me personally, to Santa Fe, and for everything that they are willing to share. It's not easy, and they do it well. So having volunteered at the Interfaith Shelter for several years, I have gotten very interested in the issue of the unhoused and housing issues in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And working over at Pete's Place as I do, my heart literally breaks, friends, for the people that I see coming in, women in their 80s, young people in their teens, and everywhere in between. And there are people who are forced onto the streets, more so now than ever, The last thing I saw was we have had a 48% increase in the unhoused in the state of New Mexico. That's huge, 48% in 2 years. So this is definitely an issue that I am so grateful that you're interested in, that I'm interested in, that we can work together in community to help resolve and help find answers to this terrible, terrible hardship on people. You may have questions today as you listen to our friends, and they will introduce themselves as it gets to them. So you will know each of them by name, and I'll let them do that rather than try and do it now. But as you listen to what you're about to hear here, you, like I, will probably be moved. And at the end of each presentation, you will probably want to applause and stand and be grateful and let your heart pour out. But I'm going to ask you not to do that. I'm going to invite you to wait until everybody, all the way down to Richard there, has had their opportunity to share with you. And then we'll be able to give some appreciation. We will be having a question and answer period after the entire presentation. They're going to tell their stories. They're going to share with you what LEAB is and a few details about that. And then you may have some questions, and you will be welcome to ask them at that time. So if we will, at this point, we are ready, I think, to just get going. And so at this time, I'm just going to turn it over to Nikkei, who is the current board chairman of LEAB, and he'll get the thing rolling, and we're just going to proceed. Okay? Thank you all. There you go.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
It's on. Wow. We can actually hear. Thank you for coming out here, folks. My name is Nikkei Gustavov. I am the chairman of LEAB, as Wendy has said. So I'm going to start off with sharing with you our purpose statement. Our purpose statement is to provide a voice for individuals and families who are currently unhoused in the Santa Fe community, to provide personal experience, insight, knowledge, and leadership to community leaders, service providers, and other stakeholders, to help guide policy and pragmatic recommendations aimed at ending homelessness in the Santa Fe community. So with that in mind, I'm going to share my own story. My story is very different than what you will hear from the other people, because I started out in a Bedouin lifestyle, which for people who live in a Bedouin lifestyle, they're nomadic. They raise livestock. They travel in different areas. They have territories much like the Native Americans did in the 1800s, where they roam in various places with their livestock, taking care of them. We lived in a tribal area. Our tribal area consisted of roughly 3 counties in Santa Fe, or in New Mexico. So that would be the equivalent of Rio Arriba County, San Miguel County, and parts of Union County. That is a large territory for one tribe to be able to live in. We lived in yurts, not tents, but yurts. Anybody know what a yurt is? All right. So if you've ever spent time in a yurt, you know how comfortable they can be. But unlike most of the yurts here in the United States, ours could be taken down and transported from various places. When I came back to the United States, or when I came to the United States in 1982, I never saw what homelessness was like, because for me, there was no such thing as being homeless. There was no such thing as being unhoused, because when you live in a yurt, that is your house. When you live in a tribal way, that is your home. So none of this was, all of this homelessness and unhoused was very foreign to me until 1993. In 1993, after spending time here in New Mexico, I went north to Seattle, Washington. My first night in Seattle was literally on the streets. That was a shock to me to have people walking at 5 o'clock in the morning on the street, being among other homeless people, and the next morning waking up and being told, "Oh, you can come to this place to get coffee and donuts." The next thing you know, you have to find, where do you get showers? Where do you get food? All of these things became an experience that would later show me my time here in New Mexico, here in Santa Fe with LEAB. As I spent time in Seattle, I worked among homeless people in an organization called SHARE. What SHARE did is very similar to what we here in LEAB do. We talked with state, county, city, and federal officials on homelessness and unhoused people. I spent 2 years doing that. When I came back to New Mexico, I would spend the winters at the local shelter here. That's how I met some of the people here. My work now consists of helping homeless people in a spiritual manner, connecting themselves with a relationship with the God that they need to have, combining the spiritual with the physical. It is very difficult for a person to focus on the long term if every day they're having to focus on how they're going to get their next meal, where are they going to spend the night. And oftentimes they neglect the spiritual aspects of their life. This is where I come in. I bridge the two together so that they can have a physical and spiritual life together. I got involved with LEAB when I was staying at Pete's Place last winter, and hearing about LEAB from Wendy. One day, I decided, in talking with one of the coordinators who helped get LEAB started, she invited me to attend one of the meetings. I attended this meeting, and I've been involved ever since with LEAB, since January 5th of this year. So I have been co-chairman of LEAB, and now I'm chairman of LEAB. And I find that in all of these educational conversations, it's important to understand that there's a difference between being unhoused and being homeless. You can be homeless and have a house, a building, or you can be homeless and be unhoused without a building. So keep that in mind as you hear these people's stories, that being unhoused and being homeless can oftentimes go hand in hand. And with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, Lila.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lila, and I was born in Taos, New Mexico, and to a really, really wonderful family. The time that I was born, my dad was in the army, and my mom, she was an artist. I believe she was going to school, and she was taking care of us. And I had really, really wonderful grandparents that were both teachers, and I loved spending time with them and spending time with my uncles and aunts. And then some things happened with our parents, and we were taken away to foster care. And it was really devastating and traumatic and painful. And, I remember not feeling comfortable or at home in the foster home. And so I ran away and I tried to go back home. But my mom was no longer there. She had left we lived up in Cuesta, which is north of Taos. And so when I got to the house, I went inside and it was really cold. And my cat was there and she was starving. And it just broke my heart. And I sat on the couch and I looked around and I realized that our home was gone. There was no more home. There was no one to make a fire, no one to make dinner. And so I turned myself back in and I went back to foster care. And I was in a lot of different group homes and foster homes. And some of them were really nice, though it didn't ever feel like my family and my home. I didn't feel like I was home. And some of them were just as abusive or even worse than the home I came from. And so it was difficult. I tried to do my best to focus at school and to do whatever they needed me to do. And, as you move from each group home and foster home, there's different rules and different belief systems and different ways of being. And so in part, it was a huge blessing, although it was painful because I learned so much about different parts of New Mexico and families and the way that different people live. Is this better? Oh, my apologies. Okay. So I became a youth advocate when I was about 14. And that was really great. And I did that until I was 23. My main goal at the time was that I wanted it to be different for all of the youth in foster care. And then I was emancipated. I emancipated myself. That required me having 2 jobs and getting a New Mexico high school diploma from the community college. So I had to drop out of school. And then I thought life's going to be different. I'm on my own now. Everything's going to be great. So I continued working and attending college. It's really difficult when you don't have, family and support. So I had to look for support, and I did find good support in Santa Fe. And then time went by. I attended Vogue, and I love doing cosmetology. I specialized in aesthetics. And that was my peace and calm. And so I was doing that up until around 2016, 17, when my biological mom got cancer. And it was the same cancer that her mother had passed away from. I was devastated and I wanted to spend as much time with her as I could before she passed away. At first the whole hope was that she recover, and then it just became I didn't want to leave. And so I stayed with her, and I left everything behind. I left my store, my spa room, and then COVID happened, and I wasn't able to reopen my store or spa in Roswell where I was staying, and so being with my mom and COVID was a temporary life thing. And when my mom passed away, I came back to Santa Fe, but I left everything behind. I left my vehicle, I left furniture, I just left everything, and I just came here where I felt safe. It did not feel safe in Roswell, and so that homeless experience was something else. I thought that I would have enough money. I have disability, and I thought that might be enough money just at first, and whatever little bit I had saved, it was not enough even for a hotel for the month, or just to get by. And not having a vehicle, I slept outside of LifeLink in the clubhouse and PMS and Casa Familia, waiting for help from somewhere until I was able to get services. And Casa Familia, gave me shelter for 8, almost 9 months until I was able to get housing. And the hardest thing was being in a space where you're grateful that you have shelter, and yet, I was seeing elderly ladies in like their 80s, some of them nearing 90, and young adults and people with disabilities, just not knowing what to do and needing help. The most important part of it, though, is that what I just said, those are labels. Each person that I met was a beautiful, divine, loving, kind human being. Somebody's child, somebody's mother, maybe someone's grandmother, somebody that somebody has loved and somebody that is worthy of being loved. And I still talk to a lot of them today, and I have been a lot more fortunate than some of them who have been sent to other cities, or just not been housed in and they end up back on the street even from the shelter. And so I see that there's still a great need for us to help one another and to continue to grow. So in the journey of me being, while I was at Casa Familia, I found a flyer for LEAB, and they were inviting people with lived experience of homelessness to come and be a part of a group that would want to bring awareness. And so it was an 86-year-old lady who said, well, we should go, let's do this. And so she really mentored me and got me to the first meeting and got me to see why it was so important to share our experiences with others and to make a difference and not just fall into the situation and stay there. So I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for, the support and mentorship and inspiration that I received from people that were in the same situation that I was. And now being a part of LEAB, I'm now the secretary and treasurer, and it's just, I feel like I have a purpose and something meaningful to do, and I'm grateful for that. And the members have become my family and friends, and I love them so very much, and I'm so grateful. And I also worked on being inspired by John, and he inspired me to get my certified peer support worker license so that I can help some of my fellow peers that I've met. And since I've received it, I've continued to work with LEAB, and I also volunteer at the clubhouse at LifeLink. And they've done so much for me and for so many people in our community. And so I'm just really grateful. The most important thing I'd like to share this evening, today, is that loving community has been the most important medicine and the best bridge and the best ally that I've had through all of this. And so I just want to thank everyone for that and urge everyone to continue to remember that what we have is love and one another.
Thank you, Lila. Thank you so much.
This is John, everyone.
So my name is John Bacon, and I've been a resident. I'm going to be 68 next month, so I'm probably one of the more elder members of this board. I was born and raised in California. I had 2 alcoholic parents, and one of them was physically and mentally very abusive to me. So as a young guy, I struggled quite a bit with substance abuse myself back in the 70s. And there was a point when I was 19 that I decided, I was getting in trouble, really. And so I wanted to stay out of trouble. So that was my first introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was 19, it was 1974. And so I sobered up a little bit, and I got a job in the airline industry, and I started as a reservation agent. And I worked in the airline industry for 24 years. At the end, I was vice president of IT for an airline. But I was a functional alcoholic. I was still drinking. I just stopped doing drugs because they had drug testing. And what happened to me was I had become sober, and I was sober about 5 years. I had a cervical fusion. The airline I was working for, as a result of 9/11, went out of business, and I got a divorce. It was like a perfect trifecta. And you know, I was actually homeless then. It says I was homeless twice, but I was living in halfway houses. I was hopelessly addicted to opiates as a result of my cervical fusion. So my sister said, "Why don't you come to Santa Fe?" And I did. I had become sober again. I got to Santa Fe, and eventually I got a job as an IT project manager for the state of New Mexico. I was I was really busy. I was kind of residing at a girlfriend's house and my house. I had 3 different offices throughout Santa Fe. We were trying to develop an application, and I was prescribed Ambien. And if you're not aware of what Ambien can do, you can have total blackouts. There's stories of people eating jars of mayonnaise and stuff like that. Well, my great idea was to get a fifth of vodka and get in the state car. And I was on my way to an ecstatic dance place, and I woke up in jail. And having gone through 2 of these experiences, I had so much shame. I had so much remorse, that I continued this cycle. I went to Santa Fe Recovery Center about 3 times. The third time, I was no longer welcome back home, and so I lived up in the forest. By this time, I was sober. I was sober all the times that I was homeless. I was working full time at Home Depot as a cashier, vice president cashier. You can kind of understand the feelings that might be going through me. And I was so afraid that I was going to relapse again that I lived up in the forest at Big Tasuke in a tent for 2 months. But that was the beginning of my sobriety. I had to be so mindful to go and get all the supplies that I had to cart up the mountain and still make it down and take a shower at Fort Marcy. And, it was a rough life. I also spent a winter living in my van on Old Las Vegas Highway. But I stayed sober. I stayed sober the whole time. It was a full-time job, staying sober and being homeless. And I learned how to help others. I first got a job at a recovery center. I earned my CPSW and I became a caseworker at the LifeLink. Today I carry a caseload of 36 people. I help them get housed. I find them vouchers. I help others. And I am the co-founder of the Lived Experience Advisory Board, one of the co-founders. And I'm just so grateful that you're all here. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Good day. Thank you for being here. My name is Karoom. I've had a couple of experiences with homelessness. First, starting when I was a teenager, coming from Jamaica, 17 years old, thinking you're coming here for a better opportunity. But unfortunately, my father and my stepmom, they were never the kind of people I would want to be around. And I had an idea about it because I already knew what his mother was like, my grandmother, not a nice woman. But I came to New York, lived with my parents. I thought my dad had a regular grocery store. Turned out it was a drug spot. Also, that he was a raging cokehead. And all he was interested in doing was basically going to the go-go bar, dropping a couple of grand, or going to the OTB and dropping another couple of grand. I started going to school to get my GED, and I hated being in a house so much that I started working in the office at school. So my graduation was rolling around, and 3 days before, this was my first experience. Now he go on his little drug binges, and I'd call a friend that I'd met at school, really awesome girl and her family. So after a while, I started hanging out at her house when I know that he's gonna act up. So 3 days before my high school graduation, I came home from school. The house was totally locked up. Couldn't get in because my father didn't have keys to his own house because he's a crackhead and his wife don't trust him. So I ended up going to stay with my friend as I always did. On graduation day, she came with me to graduation, and my principal looked at me and was like, "Karoom, where is your gown? Where's your stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, I was with Vanilla." And I'm like, he's like, "Oh, where's your clothes and stuff?" I'm like, "It's all locked up in the house." And she said, and I said, "I don't think I'll be able to graduate." And she said, "No, yes, you are. You have a chair right there on that stage waiting for you to go and sit in it. We're going to find you a gown and you're going to go up on that stage like everybody else." Because I was working in the office and I instituted the system called a phone tel system because they put me in charge of the bus passes. So when kids don't show up for school, I would be the one to yank your bus pass. And I instituted a system where our principal would automatically call your parents. So at this point, I was invaluable to these people. So, I made it past. No one showed up for my graduation. When I asked my father later that evening, "Why didn't you come to my graduation?" He said, "I don't do those kind of things." And I swear, I'm glad my mama wasn't standing beside me because I wanted to hit her. I was so angry, you know. Then, it's graduation, so you're going to go off to college. We went on a school trip up to Mercy College, upstate New York. And I loved it there. It's like Dobbs Ferry is beautiful, different from the city. And more importantly, it's a historically black college. So I started chatting up the dean and he said, "Well, we're going to have our entrance exams during the summer. Come by and come and take it." I said, "Okay, I will. I'll come." I told my father and my stepmom. They told me I should not go. So what I did, I was still going to school because I was working in the office. I saved up. I was getting $10 a day for lunch, $5 of which went to my bus fare to go to school and come back. The other five, that's lunch. But there was no dollar menu at McDonald's in the 90s. All I could afford to eat every single day was a toasted bagel and butter with cream cheese. And butter, not even cream cheese. So one day, the waitress felt so bad for me, she gave me a triple-decker sandwich. That was the best tasting triple-decker sandwich I ever ate. So I told them, they said, "We don't want you to go." Never mind that my stepmom's daughter went, they spent $40,000 a year to go to Howard University. So I didn't, as usual, I don't listen to them. So I saved my money and I went to take the test. During the test, I started with the English and other subjects, but by the time I turned around, he said, "You need a break because I'm looking over your math stuff right now." And I'm like, "Yeah, the numbers are swimming in front of my head. I'm starving." So the dean took me down to the cafeteria and fed me. He's like, "We don't have a lot of food, but you'll have a little something so you can go up and finish the test." Anyway, I passed it. I got accepted. Then it was, all right, tell them all we need from them is a notarized letter saying they can't take care of you at this point. They don't want to. And they told me no, they won't give me that letter. So after a couple of months, I decided, you know what, I think I'm better off living on the street. So I left and I'd already started doing my research on the Gay and Lesbian Community Center. And I went there, and it was an orientation. And next thing you know, I got hooked up with Glitney. Next thing you know, I know about the Hedrick Martin Institute. And one thing I will tell you, the entire time I was living on the streets in New York, you would never know because I always kept myself clean. I don't hang around with other homeless people. I always made sure I got an internship or a job. And it's a good thing I did because all those internships led me to becoming an antique restorer. I got that job because I was sitting on a bar stool waiting for my buddy to get out of work because I was crashing on his floor, an artist by the name of David Dolores. And I was waiting around for him to get out of work because we both at the time worked at Anthology Film Archives. And he worked in the box office, and I took the money, the box office receipts to the bank because everybody know they can't take it from me. So I take the money to the bank. And I'm sitting there, and the next thing you know, this man walks in, and me and him talk, and we talk, and we talk all night till bar close. And he said, you know, you're awesome. You should come to my shop. You'd be very interested. I'm like, well, I can't come in the mornings because at that time, because of going to Hedrick Martin Institute, I asked somebody at the front desk who was a dancer if he could hook me up with a job, something. And he hooked me up with this lady called Mickey Davidson, who is the princess of swing dance. And she had a jazz band called the Savoy Swingers. You know, so that was kind of like my first real job. I got to hang out with the most coolest, most famous jazz musicians in New York City and from around the world. And what can I say? You know, the next thing I know, I'm hanging out at this man's shop, Restoration. He's on 29th Street. He also teaches at FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology. And he said to me, if you come here after your morning gigs, because that time I do sabbaticals and I'm the sound and light tech for the jazz band, also the costume repair. I was wearing many hats. But he said, come to my shop after you're finished with your morning gigs, and I'm going to teach you how to make money. Now, this guy, he's Martha Stewart go-to man. All right. We get stuff sent from California. We get stuff sent from Europe for us to restore, believe it or not, because he's a man. And I was just grateful that I finally met a real man since coming to America that didn't try to treat you like nobody, you know, and treat you like family. And he sure did, because after I started my apprenticeship, he pretty much left the entire shop over to me. I ran that entire shop. Then we opened up a gallery on the second floor so we can put our finished pieces. And next thing you know, he had me running this art gallery. From everything from putting up art shows to throwing my parties, throwing my women all the wrestling events, all these kind of things. Because he thought I was the most coolest thing he'd ever met in his entire life. And he even spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. And I said, this is Karoom Henry. And he said, I don't know no Henry. I only know Karoom. You know? And because of the restoration, a client from that I met, she stole me from the company, and we became the bestest of friends. And she had a house, Adobe house up in the house, where she was come skiing. She's from the Mad Men days, you know, quintessential Jewish women with and the wit to match. And I came here to see her for the last time because she was dying. I helped her pack all of her awesome stuff. And she had an AIM screen that she wanted. It was to donate to the Smithsonian. And she wanted me to come here and work on it. And that's what brought me to Santa Fe. But the only reason why I ended up homeless here is because I didn't have a car and to get to the client's house and carry all my tools to do my house painting or my restoration. But good news, last week I got my driver's license at 46 years old for the first time. And I got myself a car so that don't happen to me again. But yeah, this is what brought me to Santa Fe, and I'm very happy because I've loved this place ever since being here. And yes, I know what it's like from being a child to being an adult to being on the street. But the point is, as long as you have it in your heart to work hard and pull yourself up and always believe in God, because that's one thing, I never lost faith. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Ursula. I'm a member from the Oglala Lakota tribe from Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and I was raised traditionally. I was born in Omaha, Nebraska, and raised in Denver, Colorado. And my mother worked for the Indian Center in Denver, and we worked, this was back in the 70s and the early 80s. and I seen a lot of change happen. So I seen a lot of homelessness with our people, my people, the Native American people, throughout my whole life. And then I ended up homeless after Standing Rock. I was going to school down here at the Institute of American Indian Arts for cinematic arts, and I left to go to Standing Rock. Um, I'm from an original family from my tribe, so that was kind of like our calling. I was raised to help and be there for the people, and us defending the water was a big thing at the time. We had to go defend the water, and but so I packed everything up here in Santa Fe and took off to Standing Rock, and I enjoyed my time at Standing Rock, and I went to take care of my mom after Standing Rock because my mom and my daughter was up at Standing Rock with me. And ever since Standing Rock, I've had trouble with housing. You know, I took care of my mom and then in Omaha, and then I decided to come back to Santa Fe to go back to school. And I moved back in 2018 in the beginning of October of 2018, and I had money in the bank. And Santa Fe was so different from when I left in 2015. Rent, I went to look at a place that I rented for $750, and it was now $1,600. And I just couldn't afford it. Most of the places were first and last month and deposit. So you had to have like $5,000 in the bank to even try to get a place. So I ended up at Casa Familia and hooked up with LifeLink and got a linkage voucher from LifeLink. I got it pretty quick. I got into an apartment in December 23rd, right before Christmas. We didn't have anything in the house, but we had a home. We had a house. And so anyway, I'm grateful that I've had the luck that I've had with the housing that I've had. And I am housed now, but the trouble sometimes is keeping the house because everything is so hard right now. I'm an artist, a native artist, and being here and trying to make a living as an artist has most almost been impossible these days. And where it would seem like, it was I made a really good living, had extra money. We lived pretty good here in Santa Fe when I was here before. But it's just that struggles, times change, struggles happen. I've had issues with my eyes, and I'm a beadwork artist and textile artist. So I need my eyes to make the money that I've made before. So right now I'm just healing and struggling, but I'm grateful that I'm housed and there's opportunities like this to help bring awareness to things that happened. And, sometimes it's not, within our control to change things or to even make it these days or have enough money. And so I'm housed and I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad I got hooked up with the LEAB. I'm the latest member, the newest member to the board, and I'm grateful that I found these guys. And we are creating family and connections, like with everyone here. And hopefully, we can make change with what we're trying to do here. And I just would like to leave you with one thought: when you go home tonight and you're in your nice cozy houses, remember the things that we take for granted. Other people are praying for. And I just would like to leave you with that thought for tonight before I move it on to my brother Richard. Here you go.
Thank you. Hold this right here. I'll forget to move it back and forth. If you can't hear me, just holler. I'm Richard. I'm used to saying I'm Richard. I'm an addict. How's that better? How's that? Sorry, I got to put it here or I'll forget. No. Anyway, I'm it says Narcotics Anonymous, so I have to disclaim that because it's only supposed to say 12-step program because we don't endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise. It's our sixth tradition. So I wanted to disclaim that. Is that better? Is that what you said? Can't hear? Okay, so I was born in Long Beach, as it says, but I lived in Tularosa. Well, I lived in Long Beach. I lived in Catalina Island, Dana Point, Costa Mesa, and my grandparents were from Seal Beach. And so that was before I was 5. And then we moved to Tularosa. I lived in Tularosa for 4 years. And then I lived in Roswell for 3 years. And then I lived on the North Shore of Oahu for 4 years. And then I lived on Mora for about 4 years. And from there, I lived in Madrid for a little while, and then in Las Vegas, New Mexico for 15 years. And so I moved around a lot. Never did well in school because I wasn't in school for very long. And my mom was a hippie, and my dad was a bandito, my stepdad. And so, like, you know, I don't want to, you know, dwell too much on being a victim, because I was a victim, but I don't live as a victim anymore. And it's a real big part of my story that I don't live as a victim anymore, even though there's a lot of my story that I was victimized. You know, early in my childhood, before we left California, my sister and I were molested. And so that like carried with me. And then when I moved to Hawaii, there, I don't want to say, but I was also molested in Hawaii when I was 13 by a man that I met in Hawaii, you know, and so like that carried on. All the stuff that carried on is like a huge part of my recovery today, because I work a 12-step program, and also I'm working with LEAB, which has been helping me. I wanted to touch on a couple of subjects. One of them was the abbreviations that the world gave me. ADHD, bipolar, hypoglycemic, you know, which is a good one, but because of my health. But and then also when I was homeless, what happened was what caused my homelessness was I moved to Santa Fe. Let's see, so I didn't do well in school. So I got my GED at Camp Luna Votech when I was 18, and I attended Highlands University for a little while, and I majored in party. I went to all my first classes like a couple of times, and I met these people who partied like I had never partied before, and I just started partying. And all these other people, like, this is what makes me up as an addict, is that I think different and like do things different. Like all the people that I partied with went on to their classes the next day, and I just continued to party, you know. And the people that I would go to their house and party with them, it was the only time that they partied like all year. But when I went, like I wanted to continue on, and they were like, "Okay, it's over. Richard's gone." And so for me, it was like a continuous thing. I grew up with drugs and alcohol in my family. You know, my mother introduced me to drugs, and so the abbreviations is what I was touching on. And when I was walking down Cerritos Road, well, what happened was I ended up getting married in Santa Fe, and I met my wife in the 12-step program, and we got along very well. And I started my own business, which was called RC Small Engine Warranty and Repair. It was on La Junta Street, and it was awesome. My business boomed, and my marriage was awesome. And we decided that we didn't want to be married one day. One of us would use, and the other one wouldn't. One of us would use, and the other one wouldn't. And so she decided she wanted to divorce. And through the judge's decision, I ended up homeless, and my shop was at my house. And so I went from owning my own home and owning my own business, and a lucrative business, and then I ended up going to jail for breaking the restraining order in my shop, and like that, all the situation, you know what I mean? I can't really tell you all about it, but I ended up in jail in Santa Fe, and then when I got out of jail, I ended up homeless, coming out of jail without my home and without my business. Like from owning your own home and owning your own business to being homeless, it was such a downer for me. It took me so long to get out of that. You know, it took me a long time to be able to work for somebody else. Anyway, I ended up homeless and hanging out at Pete's, and there was a camaraderie at Pete's when I went. You know, when I first went, like people stuck up for each other, and we looked out for each other. And then it went from that to the next year where everybody was robbing each other, and you couldn't trust anybody. And I was walking down Cerritos Road with my basket that I thought was my world, my everything in the basket, which was just a bunch of junk, really. But one kid distracted me, and the other one hit me with a rock in the head about this big. And I ended up with traumatic brain injury and homeless and not remembering. And so, you know, it was from there where I made a decision to do something about my life. And I started going to LifeLink. And keeping my appointments at LifeLink was really hard for me. Being homeless and being using drugs and then having traumatic brain injury. Like the thing about abbreviations is that, you know, it's if you have physical ailments on the outside, people see them. But when you have abbreviations, like, and I want to talk about the abbreviations in a little bit here, but for now, they really restricted me from doing anything about my life that was any good. And every time I would try to do something, like fighting against the the places that were trying to help me, I felt like I was fighting against the world, and it was me against the world. And whenever I would go to LifeLink, you got to keep an appointment, and then you got to come back for another appointment before they even schedule you a counselor. You know, and I couldn't quite make that last appointment. You know, and finally, once I was able to, somebody at LifeLink helped me. They actually waived the rules for me and let me keep my second appointment. And so, you know, through LifeLink and through healthcare for the homeless. And let me tell you, when I first started going to these entities, there were people there that were new, and they didn't really know their job, and so like it was easy to get discouraged. And instead, what I tried to do was work with these entities instead of against them, you know, and work with the people instead of against them. There are a couple things I want to touch on. One of them is, I think from my experience and from what I see outside my door, 50% of the people in Santa Fe that are homeless are between the ages of 12 and 20. And normally live at home with their parents, whether they're 12 or 20. And you know, through the rules at home where you can't use drugs at home or you have to be home at a certain time, these people decide to be out on the streets because it's not that hard in the summer. It's almost like a party, and it's almost fun, and everybody's partying. But when it gets to be cold outside, it becomes a different story, you know. And these, you want me to stop? Because I'll go on and on. Okay, so let me just say a couple more things. Okay, and so it's a lot about kids don't want to go home a lot of times, you know, and for me, the abbreviations that I have today, each one of them has been a gift in my life. You know, it's like it's just a matter of balance for me, and I'm really spiritual today, connecting my mind and my body and my spirit, and being restored to sanity, being able to make sane decisions today is a huge part of my recovery. And my goal is that people can use my experience so they don't have to go through what I went through. Hopefully, that's my hope.
Here are some beautiful stories, and now we may applaud. I a very brief sampling. You may be seated. This is a very brief sampling of some of the amazing and incredible stories that you can hear, and they could go on forever with more things, as could I. There are many. The biggest myth about our unhoused family is that they're all drug addicts and alcoholics. It's true that some of them suffer that. We've heard stories here that was a contributing factor. Friends, I know people who are unhoused right now who are there because they had a car accident. They had a great job. They had a great home. They had family. They had a car accident. Were not able to work for 3 months. They are now on the street. And there are many, many stories of our family who are out there with no contributing factors that they actually put in. It's life. Life can be hard, and life can be tough. One of the things that Chaplain Joe shares with us when he goes out and talks to people, and we really appreciate Chaplain Joe's ministry, street ministry. One of the things that he shares, and I just want to do very briefly before we take questions, is Wednesdays. On Wednesday, we are trying to smile at someone who's unhoused, whether it's somebody on the corner, somebody you're driving by, somebody you see somewhere. Offer them a warm smile, because as you listen to these stories, all of them appreciated the people who made them feel loved, who helped them up in a difficult time. And there are so many out there like that. So I invite you to smile and thank you for everything that you do to contribute to the comfort and to changing these problems. At this time, we're going to go ahead and skip some of our other slides, but we're going to ask if you have any questions. Tashima, were you going to take the microphone so that we can hear the questions? Oh, sorry.
Is it working?
It is.
So I just have one quick question. I lived in my compact car for about a year and in my van for 6 years and was housed 2 years ago here in Santa Fe. And my friend Janet here at Unity helped me get set up and everything. So my question now is, and also that gave me a great admiration for people actually on the street because I was always had at least a place to lay down. And so I learned so much about gratitude and admiration of the resilience of people actually on the street.
Okay. And your question
My question is not monetary in the moment, but for people who might want to give something in their will, what organizations are really doing good work where the money will be well spent?
There are so many organizations out there that are helping the unhoused. If you would go to the S3 Housing Initiative website, you can go there and find a plethora of information. They also share all of, or not all, but most of the services that are out there. The greatest need I personally see are to bring more caregivers, people who can help and prop these people up as we move them into housing, which is a huge problem with the shortage of affordable housing that we have here in Santa Fe. Yes, sir.
My name is Geraldo Blakemore, and I just wanted to say to the two people that work at LifeLink, I lived there for quite a while. Carol Luna Anderson was the director there, and I still get I still go there for services. And the clubhouse was started at the LifeLink until we got a building, and it has helped a lot of people.
It sure has. LifeLink is a wonderful place.
It's very nice. They helped me with housing and everything else I needed. They got for me, helped me get everything I needed.
That's great.
So shout out to the LifeLink. And if you
Thank you.
nonprofit,
Thank you.
and if you can help them with anything, they'll be glad to accept it.
Thank you, sir. Another question? Looks like all the questions are on the right side of the room here.
Thank you. I've heard people be very critical about folks who are on corners asking for money. And if you give to them, is there something wrong with giving money to somebody who's asking for it? I don't, tell me.
John, would you like to address
It
that?
seems to be a controversial thing.
It certainly
Sure,
is.
I can address that. Yeah, I mean, there's the there's the issue of, is he just going to go straight to the liquor store and buy a mini? And he might.
Yep.
One of the things that I do is maybe put a few extra protein bars in my arsenal to hand out. Just carry them around in my car, or to be honest, if they're in the middle of substance abuse, they need it like medicine
right.
sometimes,
That's right.
And so this is going to keep them from, keep them alive another day, because when you stop drinking, if you're not getting medical attention, you can have a seizure and die.
Thank you, John. That's a wonderful answer. It really is a personal choice. And I would say if you feel moved by the divine to hand somebody $1 or $5, you should do it. But it's entirely up to each of you. Our next question is over here.
Yes, my name is Beach Beecham. I'm with the
Hey,
LEAB group
Beach.
as well. Hey,
And actually, I have a lot of people ask me about the safe outdoor spaces.
Yes.
And can you share with us about the network we have and the fact? My understanding too is the S3, our S3 Santa Fe Housing Initiative is more holistic, and also we're trying to not reinvent the wheel,
Right.
and start utilizing all the groups together. So,
Sure.
on that.
So SOS stands for Safe Outdoor Spaces. And some of us, Lila, Nakay, I, and some people here in, yes, Tashima, went up to Colorado earlier this year to look at an SOS up in Aurora, and it was very well done, very well taken care of. And we are moving towards getting some of those open. The city has purchased some pallet homes, and we have looked at those, and we are now just chomping at the bit for the city to give us the go-ahead to get those started. Tashima's agreeing with me because it's really hard waiting for those decisions. Safe outdoor spaces provide a contained area of transitional housing. They're pallet homes, a little larger than what you might see a nice what do you call it, shed or something like that. 2 people can sleep in there. It's heated, it's air conditioned, and it is in a safe place. They also have safe outdoor parking. Yes, and we have some wonderful flyers. If you get this flyer, it will tell you all about it. And the community group that we all belong to is the S3 Housing Initiative, and it did come together very organically at a convention center meeting over a year ago. And it's just a bunch of people like you concerned for this situation and moving towards that. We have a meeting at Lutheran Church on the Christ Lutheran, I always say that wrong, Christ Lutheran Church on the first Tuesday of every month at 4 o'clock, 4 to 6, yeah. So you'd be welcome to join us. Next question. Okay, thanks.
My name is Pam Rogers. I'm a trauma therapist, and I have a whole bunch of clients who are on disability and actually, they have their voucher, they have their support. They can't live in the high density apartments because of their chronic PTSD for a number of reasons. And I know a couple of people who have apartments who'd rather be in something like this because it's
fantastic, phenomenal.
So tiny home villages, casitas all around town, because some people just need peace and quiet. They can't be around other people with substance abuse issues or just noisy people.
Yep.
So this is wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Please speak to your leadership in the city and support this action.
Really quickly, I want to just recognize the people that came together to fund this board. They also help fund the community volunteers, and that is the Thornburg Foundation.
Yes.
It is Ancorum,
Yes.
and it is the Santa Fe Community Foundation, and they provide us with stipends. They provide us with meals where we bring in people from outside that want to have food, that are homeless. When we have our board meetings, they also provide us with those that require them to have like a laptop to be able to communicate and be able to put together things like budgets and meeting notes and so forth. So I just want to give a shout out to those folks, and Thornburg's right up the street, and they're wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, I was in Eugene, Oregon in 2018, and they have lots of different alternative. There was one church that had all these little individual standing places, and a lot of construction people who each one took and built a house in this one community. So
wonderful.
I don't know if you've connected with any of the wonderful things that they're doing. But Eugene has a large community.
Thank you. We are getting input from all over the nation. There are a lot of actual real statistics. Now, one of them that you can share with your friends and neighbors is that your neighborhood becomes 4 to 7% safer and less crime in your neighborhood if you have a safe outdoor space nearby. And these are the kind of facts that people do not understand, that it's actually removing the element that's in your backyards and in the places that you don't want to see anymore. And it's also offering dignity and opportunity to those who are unhoused so that they can move forward in life and get back on their feet. Got one over here already. Wait, sorry, the lady behind you has the mic. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know if it's an appropriate question, but first of all, this lady talking about giving money to people on the street, all I have to say to you is the gift is in giving. What they do with it
That's
is not
right.
your business.
Yes.
Be it a Christmas present, a birthday present, anything. The gift is in the giving. Once you've given that gift, it's
not up to you where it goes. That's right. That's right.
So anyway, my question, I was concerned because it may be inappropriate, but it really bothers me that people are in this country illegally are being housed in $400 a night motel rooms while these beautiful people and our homeless veterans are sleeping under bridges. And I'd like to know how you all feel about that.
Well, Nikkei, do you want to field that? Where's the microphone? Just very briefly. Sure. Well, they're needing housing as well. Yeah. People are people. That's right. They all need housing. Nikkei, go ahead. We're going to give Nikkei the floor at this time.
As a veteran, I'm going to say that it's a sad thing where the Veterans Administration does not do as much as they could in helping veterans who are on the street. One of the other things that a lot of veterans face because of their treatment by the VA and by other organizations, they often don't want to get involved with government programs that can enable them to get off the street. In the work that I do, I run across a lot of these veterans, and having talked with them, their attitude is, I want to be free from anything that ties me into a government program that tracks me down in all of this manner. So if you want to deal with the veterans, talk to the VA to get them to get out of their slowness if you want to help
Great.
a lot of these people.
Thank you. Thank you. We do have an active vet center in town. Tashima, who's next? You? If you've got the mic, you have the floor.
I'd like to recommend Haven for Hope in San Antonio, Texas. It's an incredible organization. I lived in San Antonio 23
It
years.
is. I've heard
and
of
worked
it.
for nonprofits there, and it's a graduated. If you want to sleep in the park out front, it's fenced in, secure, and it goes all the way up to. You familiar with it?
I've read a little bit about it. I'm not totally familiar.
Amazing.
It does sound amazing. There are, Tashima, I'll take that one. There are some amazing sites. We have something in Las Cruces right here in New Mexico that is functioning fairly successfully. And again, hopefully we're going to see that right here in Santa Fe very, very soon.
I want to just say something. I am so full of gratitude that all of you showed up here, came to hear the LEAB board members speak, and that if you want to get involved, one of the things you can do is join S3. It's a really active group. We have been doing great work. We have here tonight Erica Kidd, who is the manager of the Santa Fe Suites.
Yeah. Santa Fe Suites is a transitional.
We're always looking for volunteers to help there. You can show up and go for Friday morning, have coffee and donuts, and help a person who might need some kind of help. Walk their dog, shop for them, read to them, teach them how to read. There's so many ways you could get involved with people who are
Yes.
unhoused. And
One of the things that we always say is, as you said, Wednesday is Smile Day. These are other people. These are our brothers and sisters, and there but for fortune go I.
Yes, that's right. Lila would like to have a word.
And then I think we probably need to.
And then we probably
end.
will wrap it up. Okay.
I just wanted to point out, I said community and love, and yeah, and so Erica was mentioned. She's one of my favorite ladies. She used to be my case manager, and she lifted me up off the streets at one time.
Yes.
Erica. And another important feature here is my dog.
Yes.
I have this little 6-pound Chihuahua. Before that, I had a big 88-pound pit bull, and that's been my companionship. You know, my buddy, my sidekick, ally, having a pet, and particularly when I was homeless, she was all that I had. I mean, I picked up my little dog and put her in my purse and said, "Wherever we go, I'll be your home." And so when I needed medical help for her, when I needed food, when I needed something to keep my companion that was helping me release oxytocin and helping me feel safe and helping me feel like everything was going to be okay and reminding me of how delicate I was and that I needed to take care of her. And Karen Kane right here.
Karen, stand up. Karen works with the animals out on the street that are unhoused.
Yeah, she makes sure that they have food, that they have their shots, that they are being loved and cared for, that they are fixed if they need to be fixed, and she will resource you and she'll come to you and your animal and love on your pet and get what you need for them. And I just want to thank you, Karen.
I used to look at the unhoused and their animals and say, how can they possibly have a dog or a cat or whatever with them? Here they are unhoused, and now I understand. So many of these people suffer from PTSD and other disabilities, and this is all they have. And we are grateful for the ministry for these pets. As you listen to these, you can see so many different ways that we can survive together in the city of Santa Fe, in the United States of America, and end homelessness. And together we can do that. Our voices matter. Nothing about us without us. That's right. Thank you all for being here today. There's a survey that Tashima's handed out. Please return that for us. Good job, Nikki. You went way over, but it was all good stuff.